Well, the Board of Trustees of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, says it is confident that the Supreme Court will rectify the errors in the judgment delivered by the Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal. The PDP BOT position is contained in a communique issued at the end of a meeting in Abuja, which was held yesterday. Adolphus Wabara, a former Senate president and chairman of the PDP BOT, read the communique. Well, last week, the five-man Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal struck out the various petitions filed by the PDP and its candidate, Atiku Abubakar, against President Bola Tinubu's victory in the February 25 elections. In a unanimous decision, the tribunal led by Haruna Samani held that Abubakar was unable to prove claims of vote rigging and irregularities in the election. However, the PDP and Abubakar rejected the verdict of the tribunal, vowing to appeal the ruling at the Supreme Court. Well, according to the communique, the PDP BOT said it has confidence in the capacity and coverage of the Supreme Court to ultimately and decisively right the wrongs and correct the manifest errors contained in the judgment of the PEPC in the interest of the unity, stability, and corporate existence of the country. The party said Nigerians are facing excruciating hardship, worsening insecurity, and a general sense of apprehension and despondency across the country, caused by the policies of the ruling All Progressives Congress APC. Now, the opposition party's BOT claimed that the nation is at the moment in a precarious situation under the APC, noting Nigerians look to the PDP for a solution and direction. The PDP advisory body said the party is determined to continue to lead the charge to rescue the nation's democracy and return it to cohesion and economic prosperity. We have a guest joining us virtually to make sense of this. We have Nick Agule, who is a social affairs commentator. Good morning to you, Nick.
Good morning, and good morning to our viewers.
All right, we'll find a way to rectify the audio. We cannot hear you clearly from over here, but that will be rectified shortly, so we can take your thoughts on the issues raised. Oh well. Now I do believe you can hear me, though, but
I
the
can hear
PDP
you
seems very
clearly.
confident.
I can hear you very clearly.
All right, I think it's coming up. It's coming up gradually. Well, the PDP seems very confident here. All right, just the way the APC was confident of their own victory at the appeal court. What do you make of this? Brazen confidence, if I may put it that way.
Well, it's always the case that when parties are before a court, that both parties feel confident about their case. If you don't feel confident about your case, then there is actually no need going to court, because it will be a waste of resources. The senior advocates of Nigeria that you hire, they don't come cheap, plus every other thing that is involved, including your time as a plaintiff or defendant sitting in court. I mean, you could see that some of them were already dozing off the other time. So if you are not confident about your case, why would you go to court? So every party in a case are always positive that they are going to get the desired outcome. The only thing is that, of course, the judges are going to weigh in on one side or the other. I haven't seen a situation where there is a draw in a case. So one party is going to emerge victorious and the other party is going to emerge to have lost the case. And it's okay for this thing to happen, because it improves on our jurisprudence. It helps develop our laws. And you can see that in cases like this, as it happened in Kogi State, where, you know, there was no law that governed a situation where a gubernatorial candidate would die while the election was still going on. That helps us in terms of the National Assembly now making laws to cover such gaps or loopholes in our body of laws. So at the end of the day, I think it's okay. The PDP feel confident it is okay. Their confidence will be tested by the Supreme Court, and in due course, we are going to see whether their confidence was actually firm or misplaced.
All right, now let's take a look. Let's take a look at some of the things ruled out. Now, the PDP's petitions were thrown out by the PEPC on lacking merit. All right, the PDP in their petition tried to assert that that the president was not, the president was not fit to contest for the election. They filed to get the certificate from the school that he purported to have attended. That didn't come up. That didn't work at the time. But recently, we just heard a news. I think that was yesterday, that the FBI was going to release a 2,500 naira. I beg your pardon. See, I'm thinking money. I'm thinking a 2,000.
So much documents, yeah.
A 2,000.
So much documents like money. Yes.
Oh yes. Well, 2,500 documents, paged, that will detail the personality of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Do you think this in any way might be what the PDP is hinging its victory at the Supreme Court on, seeing that witnesses will not be called to the Supreme Court?
I'm not a lawyer. I have to put that up front. So I am not an expert in legal processes and what courts will accept as evidence or not. But I think I have read severally in the past where rulings by courts have gone to the effect that you cannot introduce new evidence at the appeal stage. So if this document that will be released by the FBI, if indeed they incriminate President Tinubu, can the PDP or any of the other parties that are going up to the Supreme Court to hear their appeals be able to introduce such evidence at that stage is what I cannot tell. Perhaps legal experts will be able to say that. But the question here is about the screening that both our security agencies and INEC makes. If, for instance, the FBI releases documents that are incriminating, documents that would have disqualified President Tinubu from being nominated as a presidential candidate on the banner of the APC, then the question is that why didn't our security agencies or even INEC in their due diligence were able to uncover this kind of things? And I believe that should become a lesson learned, that if anytime someone is up for an election in Nigeria and says, like, I'm in the UK, I live in the UK now, and if I go to contest election in Nigeria, is the basic thing to be done that you will come to the UK and search the records and see if while I was here, I had falling short of the constitutional requirement for a Nigerian to contest election into any office. So this will come up as lessons learned. How is it going to be at the end of the day? Because if at the end of the day, these documents by the FBI turned out to show that President Tinubu was indeed, President Tinubu indeed shouldn't have qualified to contest for election as a president, but he has already been sworn in as a president. What is going to happen? Is there going to be anything that will say you are no longer qualified to be president, you need to come down from your position now, or what is going to happen? For me, it will be an interesting scenario that will play out. We will watch to see what's going to happen. But morally, he would have lost that pedestal to actually govern over us.
All right, then.
All right, Nick. Thank you very much. Good morning, Nick. Good morning.
Good morning, Joy. How are you doing?
I'm well. Now that the PDP is going to the Supreme Court, they have said it that they plan that they hope that whatever irregularities they encountered during the hearing of the tribunal earlier would be rectified by the Supreme Court. What are the chances of this actually happening practically? Because we've heard in time past we've even heard scandals about the Supreme Court's judge getting into some illicit actions with political candidates and all of that, and that happens sometimes, but now that they are going there, what are the chances that they would get the true justice they seek?
Okay, so we can look at it from two perspectives. On the one hand, it is within the powers of the Supreme Court to upturn the judgment of the appeal court, which sat as the presidential election petition court. The powers the Supreme Court have, and we have seen the Supreme Court actually take such decisions in the past. We've seen the Supreme Court upturn elections in Rivers, in Imo. In fact, in any of the states that run off-cycle elections, all of the states that run off-cycle elections, Kogi, Osun, Anambra, etc., it is the Supreme Court that upturned the elections. And it's because after the Supreme Court upturned the election, the other person was already in office. For instance, now, if the Supreme Court upturns the presidential election, the Nigerian presidential election will become an off-cycle election. Because whoever you swear in today, being the 15th of September, their tenure will only run out on the 14th of September in 2027, and they will hand over on the 15th of September 2027. So Nigeria presidential election will become an off-cycle election, no longer an election for swearing in on the 29th of May. So every state where there's an off-cycle election, the Supreme Court upturned the judgment. So on the one hand, it is within the powers of the Supreme Court to upturn the judgment that the appeal court, sitting as the presidential election petition court, actually delivered. But on the other hand is whether the justices of the Supreme Court will have the courage, if they actually see that the judges at the appeal court were wrong, both in their reading of the law and in their interpretation of it, will they have the courage to upturn a presidential election? A presidential election has never been upturned in Nigeria. I think the closest we came to upturning a presidential election in Nigeria was in one of the Buhari cases. There was a split judgment at the Supreme Court. I think it was a 3-5? I'm sorry, was it a 3-2? I think it was. There were at least two dissenting judges. Sorry.
Now I'm listening to you. Two dissenting.
Yeah, there were voices. At least two dissenting judges of the Supreme Court, and if they had got a majority, I remember there are two, because when Buhari finally became president, he rewarded the two of them with the ambassadorial positions. One came here to the UK, and the other was sent to the US. So that was the closest we ever got to upturning a presidential election. So what we actually ask the Supreme Court judges to do is, look, look at this appeal, and if you find merit in the appeal, they have the courage to say so. For by so doing, we will build a Nigeria of tomorrow that our own children will enjoy. So this one is an appeal that I'm making to the Supreme Court judges, that if indeed they find merit in the appeals, let them deliver judgment accordingly. But if they don't find merit in the appeals, then let them dismiss the appeals accordingly. That's the only way that Nigeria will move forward.
Okay, but once this happens, just like you said, the Supreme Court should ensure that they are, they check everything, check and balances and everything, and make sure that, they are getting it right this time. But what if, they still, the result is still negative? Wouldn't the PDP still come out to say there were some irregularities here as well and all of that?
If the result of the PDP appeal at the Supreme Court comes out negative, meaning their appeal is not granted,
exactly,
I will expect the PDP to accept the judgment, even as painful as they will feel it is, because that is what the laws of the land demand. That once the Supreme Court makes a pronouncement, we all agree to that, even if we don't agree with it. But I would then expect the PDP, with a substantial number of legislators at the National Assembly, both in the Senate and in the House of Representatives, to go back to the drawing board and carry out a surgical x-ray of the Nigeria Constitution as pertains to elections and the electoral law, and come up with proposed legislations which they should now pass through the National Assembly, that will tighten the loopholes that made it possible for INEC not to deliver elections according to their wishes. And some of those loopholes are very glaring. For the life of me, I actually thought that the law mandated INEC to electronically transfer election results from the polling unit to the IREF. I actually thought it was mandated, because I remember that when that matter was before the National Assembly, it was debated hotly. There was a time that an amendment was being sought, whereby the Nigerian Communication Commission will come in and give INEC the green light before they will now do the electronic transmission. For so that cases where there's no network are covered. There was all the shenanigans about that thing, and how it ended up that thing was not a mandatory requirement, I don't know for the life of me. So those are the kind of low-hanging fruits. We must mandate INEC to electronically transfer the results at the polling unit to the IREF. So there are many other things that we need to fix. There are also things that, for me, the way I see it now, that when we go to court, when I say when we go to court, when parties go to court, when parties go to court, they, like the PDP that we're discussing now, they sued INEC as the first respondent before they sued the party, before they sued the candidate and all of that. They should not be suing INEC. INEC should be a neutral party. INEC should be a neutral party.
Now, sorry to interrupt you there, just for the records now, first of all, do you belong to any political party? Are you a card-carrying member of any party? I just wanted to, to get that one cleared out.
I am not a card-carrying member of any party, but I supported candidates across the parties during the last elections. And I was in my village where I cast my vote. So I was looking at the individual candidates and what they were going to bring to the table. Okay. So I actually supported a different candidate at the presidential, from a different candidate at the gubernatorial, at the senatorial, and all of that.
So for you, it was about. That's what I did. So for you, it was about the person, not the party.
Yes. It was about the person,
not the party. But as it stands now, the party still runs the show. As it is in Nigeria, the party determines who runs and Nigerians don't have a choice but to file behind whoever it is that the party picks. And talking about the party now, the PDP itself is a party that one can say is divided against itself. It's a house divided against itself, with Wike and his G5. Wike in person now calling for, he did call for this the expulsion of Atiku Abubakar, and that same party going to cause to challenge. You think Wike would want something that would remove him as the minister of the FCT? Don't you think he will, push some buttons or do something? The party itself, as it is now, are they strong enough to even stand as an opposition party?
Before I answer your question, I would like to pick up another low-hanging fruit, which you actually started with, which is the fact that in Nigeria, as we stand today, for you to stand for elections, for any of the elected positions, you must be sponsored by a party. To me, that's a low-hanging fruit that the 10th National Assembly should also deal with. We should allow independent candidature. We should let people who believe that they are popular enough and they can run on their own steam and stand for election. That will remove the powers that the parties have now over candidates. There are a lot of people who are forced to go and go into bed with strange fellows because they need a party as a platform to stand for election. If they stood for election alone on their own and they won, they will not have godfathers, they will not have an overbearing party, and the field will be better for us, the electors, to choose those who are going to lead us. So that's my first comment on that one. Now, I'm talking about PDP itself. PDP is a victim of their own circumstances. Yeah, this is the party that led Nigeria for 16 years. And in fact, for me, I have harsh words for the PDP because I can easily say that they are actually suffering from the system that they created. It is the bed they made that they are lying on now. If you recall back now, in this Fourth Republic, 1999 was when we started. And in 1999, PDP won elections at the presidency. President Obasanjo came in, and for the 2003 presidential elections, President Obasanjo and the PDP, they made sure they destroyed every democratic structure that was in place for them to be able to hold themselves into power. And they continued like that in 2007 to the extent that they were so sure about their own machinery of staying in power at all costs that they boasted that they were going to be in office for 60 years. So that system that they created is a system that we now have. So I think the PDP owe us, Nigerians, a duty to go back and clean up the mess that they have caused in our democratic structure. And the best way to do it is now that they have a substantial membership in the National Assembly and governors across the state, so that they will become the influence that will sanitize our electoral process and make our elections better, so that in 2027, we'll have a better election where truly it is the voice of Nigerians that matters and not the voice of thugs or voice of governors in the states who are like the commanders in chief, or the voice of the judges sitting at the various courts.
All right, Nick, thank you so very much for that, for your take, of course. But I would like to ask this. President Bola Tinubu just, finished or just got back from the G20 summit, and also has celebrated 100 days in power. So this is like 100 and a couple of days now, and wouldn't the Supreme Court ruling, if it's against APC, wouldn't that disrupt the relationships already established, with other nations? And secondly, wouldn't that also tamper with the peace in the country right now?
I agree with you totally. Assuming that President Tinubu was removed by the Presidential Election Petition Court, He will still be president today until the appeal has been concluded at the Supreme Court, but his position will become weak. And I mean, assuming that the Supreme Court finally affirms his removal, then we're going back to square one. You know, even the Nigerian presidential election will become an off-cycle election. So it will no longer be happening during the general elections and things like that. So that will be very disruptive. And this is why, for me, I also believe that another low-hanging fruit that the 10th National Assembly can quickly pick upon in terms of amending the Constitution and the electoral law is that let us be holding our general elections in November of the preceding year. So if elections, like if these 2023 elections that we had in May and March, if we had moved it to November of 2022, then the court would have had 6 months from December to May to adjudicate exhaustively all the cases, so that the Supreme Court would have passed their judgment before it was May 29th. And the person that was sworn in can no longer be removed, because this is the person that has gone through the whole log, including the judicial process. So by simply just shifting our elections, to November, we can solve this problem of electing someone who comes into office and then the person is now removed by the court, and then we now have disruption in the governance process. Like imagine all these agreements in the UAE and all that President Tinubu has already done. The new person will come, whether he likes the agreement or not, those global leaders will have to deal with a new person. By simply conducting elections in November of the preceding year, this problem will be solved. So let the National Assembly members and our leaders across board, if they are listening to us, or their aides are listening to us, or the video of this interview reaches them, let us just solve each problem as it comes. By shifting elections to November, it will solve all of the electoral problems, but it will solve the specific ones where people are already in power. They are using the resources of state to fight other people who contested elections with them. Like now, President Tinubu is the president of Nigeria. He has all the resources of Nigeria at his disposal.
All right.
All right. Thank you so very much, Nick Agule. We have a second topic, so please just stay on the line for that one. Nigeria, yet again, in blackout as national grid collapses. Details when we return.
When your morning starts, make sure to look around for the right company to serve you everything you need to know about what's happening around you. That's why you need VOP this morning, because we will climb this far to give you a voice in what's going on, from news, reviews, politics and the economy, sports and even entertainment. Join us weekdays 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. right here on VOP TV. VOP TV. Now you have more than a voice.